In the top stories, Honorable Senator Isaleen Phillip has highlighted community policing and early intervention as key pillars in the National Crime Prevention Strategy. Regionally, Guyana's Region 6 and 10 have been identified for industrial hemp cultivation, and on the international scene, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Cuba poses a national security threat to the United States. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Major Newscast. I am Jasmine Thomas. First, on the local scene, the Federation's approach to crime prevention is focused not only on law enforcement but also on community partnerships, early intervention and social investment. That message came from the Honorable Senator Isaleen Phillip during a regional discussion on building crime prevention ecosystems through a public health approach. The Senator said community policing programs are helping to rebuild trust between security forces and communities through greater engagement and patrols.
Community policing programs have been launched and are being carried out, where you see we have the Commissioner of Police here in the picture actually doing walkthroughs. And we have members of the police forces, defense forces now doing more community patrols and connecting with people and the neighborhood, because the trust and the partnership between the police force and the community is very necessary to fight.
Honorable Senator Phillip said partnerships and early intervention are essential to reducing crime and violence, particularly among young people. She pointed to initiatives including anti-violent school engagements, suspension programs for at-risk students, and rehabilitation efforts aimed at reducing recidivism.
We think about how do we apply interventions to the justice and legal system, the penal system. We have to think about how we can go from simply increasing the number of incarcerations and sentencing to how do we actually do more to rehabilitate and restore, so that we can actually transform. Because you know what happens when we only focus on throwing people in prison? We just have to build more prisons. And that doesn't really solve the problem. We just now have more violent people locked up. And so we have to think about what do we need to do, what can we do within our penal system, within our justice code, to offer more options for rehabilitation, restoration, and transformation. And so here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we do have institutions that are intended to support that. We have a juvenile rehabilitation facility. We also have strong programs through the Elevate. Elevate is a very comprehensive, multidimensional program that seeks to rehabilitate and reduce recidivism of those who have been convicted or of those who are seen to be along that pathway.
The Senator also emphasized the need for strategic investment in social programs, education, youth development, and family support services. She said crime prevention requires long-term commitment, data collection, and greater support for community organizations and social safety nets.
But of course, we also need to balance that with investing in our social systems and social programs, the programs that actually create the social protection safety nets. So yes, that means we do need more strategic investments in foster care programs. We do need more strategic investments in rehabilitative centers, institutions. We need more strategic investment in social programs that actually target families and parents to support them. And so financing, the way we think about it, has to be a bit more child-friendly and child-friendly.
Senator Phillip said St. Kitts and Nevis is proud to be helping to lead the regional conversation on preventative and community-driven approaches to crime reduction. Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, has called for a regional shift from reaction to prevention in addressing crime and violence across the Caribbean. The Prime Minister was addressing the official launch of the CARICOM UNDP diagnostic document and the CARICOM UN Action Framework on Crime and Violence Prevention, now underway at the Marriott Hotel in Frigate Bay. The two-day hybrid event brings together regional governments, development partners, judicial representatives, security experts, and United Nations agencies to build a more coordinated approach to prevention. The initiative focuses on moving the region away from a response-driven model towards a public health and human security approach that treats crime and violence as development challenges rooted in social conditions, family stability, health, education, and opportunity.
Church cemeteries right on the eastern coast in Christchurch. That's how committed he was. And then he began to talk to me about violence and crime. Always held that nothing can really be done unless there's political will. The political will is what allows us to be able to implement policies and to put whatever is necessary behind it to get it done.
Dr. Drew welcomed the framework as an important step in building regional consensus, emphasizing that crime and violence cannot be viewed only through a law enforcement lens.
That the answer is not only law enforcement. I want to stress that law enforcement and the judicial system are critically important. Please, I want that to be said as well. So I'm not downplaying that in any way. I'm simply saying that that alone is not the answer. And invariably, when law enforcement and the judicial system really get involved, is at the end of a long process of bringing somebody to that point.
Discussions are also examining how government's health systems, social services, justice institutions, and community organizations can better align resources to address the root causes of violence and build long-term resilience.
Science. This is data-driven, intelligence-guided. This is not guesswork. Just as you go up, if you don't do anything to counteract gravity, you will fall down. If you implement this, this would be the result that you would see.
The Prime Minister said the framework offers a practical pathway towards stronger regional coordination, sustainable financing, and long-term violence reduction across the Caribbean. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, in a joint exercise with the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force, successfully arrested 2 fugitives wanted in Jamaica in connection with serious violent offenses. Kemar Matthews and Chevon Brown were apprehended in separate joint operations on the 18th and the 20th of May. Both are wanted by Jamaican authorities on charges of murder and wounding with intent and were deported to Jamaica on May 21 to answer to the charges against them. The RSCNPF reaffirmed its commitment to public safety, adding that the Federation will not be a haven for criminals seeking to evade justice. We now take a look at news on the regional scene. Guyana's government is moving ahead with plans to develop an industrial hemp industry, with regions 6 and 10 earmarked for cultivation once a processing facility is established. Minister of Agriculture Zulfikar Mustafa said the Guyana Industrial Hemp Regulatory Authority is now operational and the Chief Executive Officer has been appointed to oversee the sector. The minister disclosed that several overseas companies have already expressed interest in investing in the industry, particularly in establishing a hemp processing facility in Guyana. Minister Mustafa said discussions are currently underway with those companies, with hopes that a processing plant could be established within the next 3 to 4 months. He explained that large-scale cultivation cannot begin until a processing facility is in place. The government has received between 3 and 4 expressions of interest from investors as it continues evaluating options for the project. The Industrial Hemp Bill, which was previously tabled in the National Assembly, provides for the cultivation, manufacturing, and research of industrial hemp and related products, while also establishing the regulatory authority to oversee the industry. Officials say the development of the industry could create new opportunities in agriculture, manufacturing, and exports, while opening additional economic avenues for farmers and investors. The Caribbean Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology and the University of the West Indies Climate Studies Group, MONA, are urging governments, businesses, farmers and households to prepare for hotter and drier conditions across the region as El Niño develops. Climate experts warn that the weather pattern could bring reduced rainfall, extreme heat, drought conditions, and greater pressure on water resources throughout 2026 and 2027. They say the developing El Niño may also increase the risk of wildfires, marine heat waves, and coral bleaching, while areas already experiencing drought could face slower recovery during the upcoming wet season. Professor Michael Taylor of the University of the West Indies Climate Studies Group said the region could face what he described as a multi-hazard regime where heat, drought, and marine impacts occur together and intensify each other. Officials warned that agriculture, water management, energy, health, tourism, fisheries, and transportation could all be affected. They also noted that global disruptions linked to El Niño could impact trade, supply chains, and the cost of living across the region. The Caribbean Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology said regional experts will continue monitoring conditions and providing updates through the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum, which is scheduled for the week of May 24. Officials are encouraging the public and decision makers to stay informed and take early action to reduce the impact of extreme weather events on communities and national economies. On the international scene, United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Cuba poses what he described as a national security threat to the United States, while warning that the chances of a peaceful agreement with Havana are low. The comments came one day after the United States charged former Cuban President Raul Castro with murder over the 1996 downing of two planes that resulted in the deaths of United States nationals. Rubio said Washington still prefers a diplomatic solution, but stated that President Donald Trump has a responsibility to protect the country against any threat. Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez rejected the claims accusing Rubio of spreading lies and attempting to instigate military aggression against the island. The foreign minister said Cuba has never posed a threat to the United States. The report comes as Cuba continues to face a fuel crisis, food shortages, and extended blackouts, with officials in Havana blaming United States sanctions and restrictions. Rubio also accused Cuba of sponsoring terrorism in the region, a claim denied by Cuban authorities. Meanwhile, President Trump said his administration was trying to help Cuba on a humanitarian basis, while also repeating his criticism of the country's communist government. The United States has demanded political and economic reforms in Cuba, including greater foreign investment and the removal of Russian and Chinese intelligence presence on the island. And scientists at Oxford University are developing a new experimental vaccine to help respond to the current Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Researchers said the vaccine could be ready for clinical trials within 2 to 3 months if testing continues to progress successfully. The current outbreak caused by the rare Bundibugyo species of Ebola has resulted in hundreds of suspected cases and more than 170 deaths. Health officials said there is currently no proven vaccine for the Bundibugyo strain, which has only caused 2 previous outbreaks in recent history. The World Health Organization has upgraded the risk level in the Democratic Republic of Congo from high to very high, while maintaining that the international risk remains low. The Oxford team is using the same ChAdOx1 technology developed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Scientists explained that the vaccine uses a modified chimpanzee cold virus to deliver genetic material that trains the immune system to recognize and fight the Ebola virus. Researchers said animal testing is already underway, while India's Serum Institute is prepared to mass produce the vaccine if it proves effective. Health experts said the vaccine would likely be used through ring vaccination, targeting close contacts of infected persons and healthcare workers rather than mass immunization. Officials continue to stress that there is no guarantee the vaccine will work, but said development is moving quickly in case the outbreak worsens. We now take a look at the weather. Partly cloudy conditions with a moderate chance of showers are expected across St. Kitts and Nevis over the next 24 hours. Temperatures today will reach a high of 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit with an overnight low of 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Today's forecast calls for partly cloudy skies with a 40% or moderate chance of passing showers. Similar conditions are expected tonight with partly cloudy skies and a moderate chance of showers. Winds will be from the east at 19 to 31 kilometers per hour or 10 to 20 miles per hour, with possible gusts reaching 46 kilometers per hour or 29 miles per hour. Seas are expected to range between 1.2 and 1.8 meters or 4 to 6 feet. Sunset this evening will be at 6:38 and sunrise tomorrow morning will be at about 5:37. That brings us to the end of the Midday Major Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more. Thank you for tuning in. I am Jasmine Thomas. God bless you.